Today we're going to be looking at fraction by fraction division and also and how to use the standard algorithm to do that, and also relate that to what we're doing by dividing fractions by whole numbers and whole numbers by fractions. So we've been kind of doing it with pictures. Now we're going to kind of show you the math way to do it, okay? It's really hard to draw pictures when you're dividing a fraction by a fraction. So let's take a look. Jill has a half a gallon of paint. Easy enough. She is dividing it into jars that each hold 1/10 of a gallon. So language is going to be a thing that we're going to talk about today. We're going to make sure we understand what's being divided, what it's being divided in, and being able to tell the difference between division and multiplication. So we're going to get to that too. So it says right here that she's dividing it into jars that each hold 1/10 of a gallon. How many jars can she fill? So here's our question. How many jars can she fill? What do we know about the jars? The jars hold 1/10 of a gallon, okay? And she's dividing a half a gallon of paint, all right? And here's our important word that's letting us know our operation. It's telling us right here she's dividing it up. So whenever you put something in groups, you split something up equally, you're dividing. So it's really important to pay attention to when you're dealing with fractions. So we're going to ask ourselves, what is being split? Okay, the thing that is being split is the paint, all right? So that fraction that represents the paint is going to go first, okay? Now, what are we dividing the paint into? We're dividing into jars. What do we know about the jars? The jars are each 1/10. Wants to know how many jars you can fill. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a tenth, a tenth, a tenth, a tenth until you run out of tenths. It's going to tell you how many jars you can fill. All right? So we're going to split it up into 1/10. So we're going to do 1/2 divided by 1/10. Now with multiplication, you could just multiply straight across. Easy enough. Division's really easy too, but as we know, division and multiplication are not the same operation. So we can't do the same thing we do with multiplication. So we're going to have to do something a little bit different. It's an opposite. So what we're going to do is you're going to take the second number and you're going to flip it, which we call its reciprocal. So you're going to do 1/2. You're going to flip the second number into 10/1. Okay, it was 1/10. Now you're going to flip it, and after you flip it, you multiply. And as we all know, multiplying fractions is easy. You multiply the top, multiply the bottom. 1 times 10 is 10. 2 times 1 is 2. And so we have 10/2. And as you know with fractions, we can't just leave that. We have to put 10/2 into simplest form. And since it's a mixed number, its simplest form is going, since it's an improper fraction, its simplest form is going to be a mixed number, okay? Plus, remember that a fraction is a division problem as well. So we've been learning all this, we're kind of putting all this knowledge together, that 10 halves is the same thing as saying 10 divided by 2. So let's do that. Let's do 10 divided by 2. 2 goes into 10 5 times with no leftovers. So that's kind of nice because I don't know that I can fill a fraction of a jar. So she can fill 5 jars. So if she puts 1/10, 5 jars, of a gallon, she has a half a gallon, she puts 1/10 of a gallon in each jar, she's going to be able to fill 5 jars. So we've taken that half a gallon and split it up into tenths. Okay? So that's kind of the basic idea. Pay attention to the language and then look at the operation, okay? So let's just, for fun, throw anything up here. Let's go with, 2/5 divided by 2/3, let's say. We're not going to do a word problem for this. Let's just kind of look at how to do this. So you're dividing. In order to divide, you flip the second number. So 2/5, 3/2, and you multiply. Think of it as turning that division side sideways. So then you flip the second number and you multiply. So 2 times 3 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10. And so you get 6/10. So easy. All right. And then, again, the hardest part is just going to be making sure your fraction is in simplest form. So for those of you who need a reminder about simplest form, once you have your answer gets put in simplest form. There are some tricks that you can do here, but I'm going to hold off on those right now. So you have to find a number or see if there is a number that both 6 and 10 can be divided by. And you do that by finding your factors. So all the ways you can make 6, all the ways you can multiply to make 10, each of these is a factor. And when I do that, I notice that the biggest number that they share, besides 1, is 2. So 6 and 10 can both be divided by 2, which makes sense because they're both even numbers. And we do that, and we get 3/5. So 3/5 is the simplest form of our answer. So that means that 2/5 divided by 2/3 is going to give you groups of 3/5. Fair enough. All right, let's try one more. Let's see. 5/7 divided by 3/4. Okay? So again, when it comes to division, you take the second number and you flip it. Okay? So it's going to become 5/7 times 4/3. So you flip the second number and then multiply. Okay? Flip the second number and then multiply. 5 times 4 is 20. 7 times 3 is 21. So you get 20 21ths. 21ths are small pieces. 20 of them is a lot. It's almost a whole because 21 21ths would be a whole. And you can, again, check to see if your answer is in simplest form. With this one, it's kind of easy because remember that trick? If the top number is only one smaller than the bottom number, your fraction's already in simplest form. So that is how you divide fractions. Pay attention to the language. Very important to know which number goes first. Okay? Very important to know which number goes first. And flip the second number and then multiply. Make sure your answer is in simplest form.